Well, it is a joy to have today a pioneer. He's not old, but it's a pioneer as far as I'm concerned. This brother has spent his life supporting and helping others. When we were in a jam with the Moyer situation, even though he was against chartered schools, he was totally for what is called justice and making sure that people are treated right, not allowing people to give us something and then try to take it away. And he was very much in the front of the line of making sure that the voice of those in this community were heard. So I'm honored that he would come back, because now we're facing some very, very difficult times. We've been facing them, but now it's been exposed as it relates to some of the brutality that is going on with our police departments as well as some individual officers. But before we get started, first let me welcome you, Councilman Street, to the show.
I'm happy to be here, and it's a pleasure to walk into a church that's kind of outlined with royal purple and old gold.
yeah, he's a true Q. I'm just a little puppy, but that's a real Q. And also it's an honor, Coby Owens, to have you with us today too.
Thank you.
Even though I have not had an opportunity to really meet you, and I'm sure by the end of the day I'll know you well. I've heard the fight that you are putting up, and I want to join your cause. So I said we might as well all come together today and have a discussion so that those who view us will be able to see the work that is going on and what still needs to be done. So before we get started, I just want to take a moment, and I have not been around you, brother, Councilman Street, for a little while. What's been going on with his life?
Well, you know, I became the president of the Delawareans for Educational Opportunity. And 3 years ago, we sued the state, we sued all 3 counties over school funding. And I'm pleased to report that we've settled all that litigation at this point. At the state level, basically, at the end of the day, there's going to be an additional $100 million a year, every year, that goes to school funding to support low-income children at risk. And with the 3 counties, after 20, 30 years, depending on which county, they've got to do reassessments so that property taxes come up to speed and our schools get the money that they're actually entitled to. So I've been busy with that for the past 3 years. I am also now the 3rd vice president, working with Mr. Owens, and very active in the state conference of branches of NAACP. As I so often say, I've been a member of the NAACP ever since I was a child. Right. And even when I was a child, when you wanted the membership, you had to take it out of your allowance. It wasn't somebody just paid for it. So we're continuing, I'm continuing to do what I think I do best. And, you know, I started as a community activist. I'm one of the few elected officials. I honestly thought it would only be 1 term, because generally community activists who get elected are 1 term, and you know, now I'm going into my 5th term.
Wow.
And continue to be the community activist that I am, trying to represent the interests of people who sometimes be a voice for people who sometimes can't speak for themselves.
Right. Well, not sometimes, you do that quite often. As a matter of fact, I was talking about you with some of the staff that we have here, and they were sharing with me how you kind of took that from your mother being a woman who would fight for others, a selfless person. So is that true? Is it really?
Well, the fact of the matter is, so much so to the extent that, for example, me being so active with education, and fairness in education. My mother was the first African-American president of what was then the Wilmington Homeschool Community Council. And Penrose Hollins, Councilman Hollins, often laughs at me when I tell him, as a child, I thought it was against the law, miss NAACP meeting. Because everything in the family centered around the NAACP. Okay. When the NAACP meeting was, when the national conference was, and the March on Washington, everybody in my family, not my immediate family, my entire family, from all across the country was in Washington, D.C. Wow. Everybody over 12, everybody, teenagers and above, had to go, and the children had to sit at home in my uncle's house, and everybody had to watch. So that's the extent to which basically I've been trained. And then I was not a model child.
Okay.
I was the kind of child that nobody would babysit. And my mother was always going to NAACP meetings, and my father would be like, take him with you, because you might not recognize him when you come back. I'm not dealing with it. So I'm going to NAACP meetings as punishment. But, you know, you sit over in the corner, you're supposed to be playing, and you're in the room with Lou Redden, Reverend Moyer, Lit Mitchell, and the adults are strategizing as to where they're going to sit in, as to where they're going to boycott, as to who they're going to sue. So at some point you stop playing and you start listening. And then when it gets really serious and the adults start screaming and hollering at each other, now it's fun, but you're also learning something. And that experience, I think, has been beneficial to me and everything I've tried to do as a community representative.
Wow, I think that's awesome, and it has certainly shown. I was going to talk about you being a Q, but I think you exemplify every cardinal principle that grand organization certainly brings about. And when did you find the time to make that happen? I couldn't even tell you. But
well, at the end of the day, when I went to the University of Delaware, and I only went because I had a guidance counselor tell me that, because I was going to Del State, that she didn't think I could make it at the University of Delaware. And in my sophomore year, we went to the Greek Council, said we were interested in bringing Black Greek letter organizations to the University of Delaware. And the response was, well, quite frankly, under this administration, there will never be Black Greek letter organizations at the University of Delaware. I said, you might be right. But the way I look at it, I got 3 years. And anybody try to get in my way, I'm gonna run over, starting with you. And went to the president and said, he said, well, I didn't say that. Well, then why is he still working? If he didn't say that, why is he? And it took all 3 years, but I was on the charter line last semester, senior year, so.
Yeah, wow. He fight everybody. I was joking when we first got started. I said, you know, I've always been on the good side. I don't know what it feels like, but I've watched the fire and the zest that he brings to, the passion that he brings to helping to represent others. And when I talk about selfless, and you being a younger brother, we're gonna get to know you a little bit in a second. But when we talk about selflessness, service above self, he is truly the epitome of it. And 100%. If ever I got into a real fight, which I've gotten in some, he's always going to be there. When I called him the other day, he said to me, uh-oh, must be something going on. Because it's a shame we don't call as much as we need to, but when something going on, we know who to call. So my brother Coby, it's good to see you, it's good to meet you. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and we're going to talk about some of the endeavors that you're doing, especially with the Moses case. But I want to just hear a little bit about you and, you know, what brought you to this point.
Yeah, so I'm 26 years old, born and raised here in the city of Wilmington over North Side, 36th Street. I'm a former candidate for Wilmington City Council, but before that, I was always very involved with just building coalitions and building up my community, working around housing issues, working around immigration rights, and working around criminal justice reform. When I was, I guess, a freshman in high school, I organized my first rally around criminal justice reform because I was seeing that individuals who were returning didn't have their rights to vote. And I didn't think that was fair. And then as I started getting older and learning more, reading is the key to everything and it opens the door for you. I started understanding and studying how to use nonviolent civil disobedience to take things to the next level, to really bring about change, focusing on what is the cycle of the media and the cycle of change that we need to affect in order to get the policy that we want to see. So kind of from there, I've been building, I've worked all across the nation, from Georgia for dealing with voting rights, from Texas, dealing with immigration rights. I've been arrested 12 times for nonviolent civil disobedience across the nation, fighting for health care. I was actually arrested with Reverend Barber and Reverend Warnock during the Poor People's Campaign when Donald Trump and his administration was trying to repeal Obamacare. And I felt as though it was a need for me to put my body on the line, because while I may not be directly affected by Obamacare, many in my family can. And if I had the privilege and I had the opportunity to put my body on the line for them when they came, I'm gonna do that. So that's kind of just how I've been involved so far. When I was a sophomore in college, we witnessed the murder of Mike Brown. And, you know, with 21st century technology, literally our phones, you can see anything, anywhere in the world. And watching the reaction to the community and watching these videos over and over again, and this is building off of the Trayvon Martin case as well, too. I went to West Virginia University at the time, and, you know, it wasn't a lot of us down there. So it just happened, you know, for my friends, we decided, hey, we're gonna go out to Ferguson and join the protest peacefully. And what the media was showing was the 1%. They weren't showing the thousands and thousands of people who came out, who sat in, who blocked streets in the name of Mike Brown, for justice for Mike Brown. I continued my work and continued learning from leaders such as Linda Salzar and Tamika Mallory, and honing in on my own skills. And then I've taken multiple courses with the Poor People's Campaign to learn how to properly de-escalate situations, how to properly organize, and how to properly do nonviolent civil disobedience direct action.
Wow. You know, you said you're 26 years old and you've done a whole lot, and you're really building that truth that there are still people who care about people, care about humanity. Self-sacrifice is very important. You shared that you had run for city council. Was this the last cycle?
Yes. Yep.
All right. And I guess you were not.
No, I lost by 153 votes.
Yeah, and let me say this to you: if you keep hanging around the right folks, there's no way you could stay from winning. But you didn't stop your work.
No,
I think that's very powerful, very powerful.
And I said that from the very beginning. I wasn't going to change who I was. I wasn't going to tailor who I was for anyone. I was going to stay true to who I was, and speak out against any injustice. I didn't care if it cost me votes or not. At the end of the day, I think I did an amazing job of looking at how we can expand the electorate and get new people who haven't been out to vote, whether they were young or whether they just hadn't voted since the '08 election. My campaign invested heavily in them and getting them, because I truly believe that one vote, one voice, and your voice matters no matter what. Absolutely,
absolutely. Well, Bro Street, I think you are certainly hanging around the right crowd still. So you said you're an old man, but you're still hanging around the right crowd. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to really jump into some of the issues that are dealing with this violence with the police, and I want to deal with your situation that you're in the front of, and that is Moses, as well as I want to talk about what happened with George Floyd. I want to talk about where is Delaware with its, because I saw some pushback. Where is Delaware? We just heard that, you know, well, Wilmington does have the cameras, but there was some pushback. So I want to just talk about that a little bit and let the folks who are watching us know that this is a true battle that we're in, and we should not take it for granted. I've noticed that even people are trying to push up on black crime to cover the fact that there's some brutality that's going on with police officers. So we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. And we're back. We've been talking with our Councilman, John Street, as well as to our newfound friend, Brother Owens, regarding some of their bringings and what brought them to this point. Now I want to turn the attention a little bit to the police violence, and I want to start it with talking about George Floyd, because that was one of the most televised, and matter of fact, it was so transparent with after, you know, the recording. I just want to talk about it, and I want to start with you, Brother Street. Just tell me, what is your feelings on it at large, and then we can narrow it down.
Well, I have not looked at the whole 9 minutes, because what I have looked at, and we're in church, I can't say what I really want to say, but made me very angry. Yeah. But I'm going to go to the end, and the end being the verdict. Well, that's progress in Minnesota.
I got you.
But the fact of the matter is, if it happened in the state of Delaware, Chauvin wouldn't even have been arrested.
Based on our laws?
Based on our laws and based on the extra layers of protection that the police have And in my view, and I've said this repeatedly, going to continue to say it, for far too long in the state of Delaware, the police have run the government as opposed to the government running the police. And we need to reverse that. Look no further than last week. 48 police chief weighed in and said, don't you change anything. The only thing as it relates to police reform that they're willing to agree to are body-worn cameras. But they called it, we're not going to have 20/20 hindsight with civilians, taxpayers, they didn't say taxpayers, but with civilians looking at what happened. The only thing that matters is what the officer thought at the time it happened. And it's outrageous. And as far as I'm concerned, and I said this Sunday at the rally, NAACP sent a letter to the United States Attorney General asking him to come in and investigate patterns and practices here in the state of Delaware. And if that happens, I think they'll find, I have good cause to believe that they'll find and determine that one police agency has a pattern and practice of, if you run and you run on foot, you're going to the hospital. Another police agency has a pattern and practice, in my opinion, that says, if you try to flee in a car, we will shoot and kill you. And another police agency has a pattern and practice, in my opinion, that says, if you shoot or you shoot at one of us, there will be no trial. And if they look at cases closely enough, I think they'll be able to agree with my view of where we are. And that's just here in Newcastle County.
You know, it's funny you said Newcastle County, but I was in Dover when I was serving as Dean of Students at Delaware State. And that's when that gentleman, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, he got killed by a police officer. And no one was held accountable for that. And they marched, they closed things down, but no one. But then now I understand, as you're saying, based on the laws that are here and current, then there's almost immunity. And that has to change.
Well, the fact of the matter is, I've been dealing with use of excessive or deadly force in this town since 1979, when Wilmington police shot and killed Fuzzy Governors out on Governor Prince Boulevard. And he had a kitchen knife. He was a veteran and was surrounded by police. And the officer who shot him was put under high scrutiny and high regard, but what very few people knew was when we finally went to the police chief, there was an officer in command that said, burn him, in the story. And for a long period of time, we had one officer who either shot or was an officer in command of every shooting in the city of Wilmington. And from that time forward that I've been involved, nobody's ever been held accountable. None of that's ever been dealt with. And the safeguards under Title 11-464, Title 11-467, and the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, which Coby is fighting so aggressively. As the ACLU pointed out in their press conference last week, gives Delaware police officers layers of protection that other jurisdictions in the country do not have, and it is the most protective of all the ones that they, as the ACLU, have reviewed in the country.
Wow. You know, it's really sad when people who are not informed of the various laws that are in like none of us, well, I didn't go to school for law, so I didn't study all of Delaware's law or all of Pennsylvania's law. But even in North Carolina right now, they are shocked, mesmerized, because they have laws on the book that states clearly that transparency is something that we're not going to participate in. And they were shocked. Even the mayor, I saw the mayor on TV from Elizabeth City. She was very shocked to know that she didn't even have the power she thought she had. And it's really sad that people behind closed doors put laws into place to protect people, and especially in the time that we're in. I was thinking while Councilman was talking, I was thinking about when you looked at the George Floyd case, the outcome, the case. What were some of the things you were thinking about? Being, I believe you are a millennial. Just what were some of the things you had? He's old school. He went right to it. But tell me, where were you thinking, and where were you?
Yeah. So during that time, May 25th, when it all happened, and the following days when the videos came out and everything, I was upset. I was angered. But we were in the middle of a pandemic, and during that time, I hadn't even really been outside other to go to the grocery store or something. But watching that video, I get a call from a friend of mine, and she said, we got to do something here. We got to join the rest of the nation, because this is happening right here. We just don't see it on film every day. So we put together a protest on June the 5th, and we tried to encompass the greater community. And I think we did a good job with that. It's one of the largest ever in Delaware's history, because we were able to bring the community together. But what we saw on that video was murder. And what this verdict confirmed last week was it was murder. But it wasn't a step towards justice whatsoever. Because no matter what, there will never be true justice for the George Floyd family. It was a step towards accountability.
Okay.
But like Councilman Street said, it was a step towards accountability in Minnesota. Not even hours later, you had Ma'Khia Bryant killed in Ohio.
Right.
You had Dante Wright killed. You had Anthony Brown killed. And then you have all these stories like Lamont Moses here in Delaware that have all happened in 2021, a whole almost year after George Floyd. So even with the entire world, the eyes of the world on police in America right now, this is them on their best behavior, and they're still killing unarmed black people at an alarming rate.
Right.
This criminal justice system, this policing system, it's completely broken. It cannot protect people it was never meant to protect.
Okay.
That's why we have to look at how we can dismantle this institutional racism that it has been woven into the laws, not just here in Delaware, but throughout the nation, in order to truly get to a place where you and all of us feel comfortable and protected like we're supposed to.
So do you believe that maybe the issue, because I heard you say that it wasn't never designed to protect people of color. Do you believe that mentality, because when you hear certain networks, they kind of bring it out without saying it. Do you believe that the whole slave mentality, the whole this is not your country, you here to serve us mentality, do you believe that is what is going on in the institution that's supposed to protect and preserve?
Yeah, I mean, I could, you go back and just look at who leads the police, really, right? Not the mayors, not the executives, but the FOP.
Okay.
And you look at the FOP presidents, their statements that they have made in Delaware, in New York City, and Chicago. It's them versus black people. It's them versus minorities. And that's not the right mindset. But if they're going into this, these are trained professionals. They're paid to be on this job. They signed up for this job, going against untrained community members. And if you think anywhere in your right mind that you deserve to shoot someone because they're asking too many questions about why you illegally stopped them, and come to find out you were illegally stopping them, but because they talk back, now they're arresting arrest, and now they put you in danger because you felt threatened because of the skin color that they were born into, so you shoot them. That system doesn't work for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, Councilman Street touched on it. We got to change the Leah board here in Delaware.
Okay.
And it starts, we have to understand how our General Assembly is made up. Right now, it's a few things we can do to change that.
Okay.
One has to do with changing it so that we can have access to their records.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question, but good. Go there. Stay there.
Have access to their records. Their disciplinary, any reports against brutality. First off, the public should have access, but especially attorneys of those who are going up against the police should have access to that as well too. And second, and even more important, like you were talking about in Elizabeth, North Carolina, the people who we elect don't really have the power. So I think it's time that we look at our leader board here and say, well, how can the citizens have that power back? And that starts by having civilian review boards. But those civilian review boards have to have teeth. They have to have power. They have to have the subpoena power to call officers. They have to have investigatory power to actually look into the case. Right now, the way our laws are written here in Delaware, it literally says that it has to be done internally, that none of that information can be given out to the public. And it's not just Delaware's LEA board gives them extra layers of protections that other jurisdictions don't have across the nation. It's disrespectful for other government workers here. If I'm working on a job and I do something wrong, I'm getting called into the office right away. I don't get a whole week period to discuss it with my colleagues before they can even approach me. And when they approach me, they have to have it written out what they're approaching me about. When they can kill an unarmed black person on the street for asking the same questions, why am I being stopped?
Which is a constitutional right.
Right.
But, you know, and I said this at the rally, maybe I didn't and probably meant to, but the case with Mr. Moses, that ain't the first time.
Right.
You know, in August of 2012, out of Memorial Drive in my councilman district, John L. Green was shot in the back of the head. Then State Representative Johnson and then Senator Margaret Henry, who were feeling the wrath the same way I was, asked for a meeting with the county exec. This happened on Thursday. I called him and said, you know, we'd like to meet with you and discuss this. And he said, well, I can't, and no need to meet with you now. She hadn't even been interviewed because of the policeman's Bill of Rights. And, you know, she has a right to have an attorney present, and so until we interview her, there's no need to have the meeting. I said, okay. And I called Representative Johnson, I called Senator Henry, I said, what I just told you, I said, now y'all meet with him. Because I don't care if he gets reelected or not, I will never meet with him. And at the end of the day, then I proceeded to do everything I could to see to it that he didn't get reelected. Hence, Tom Gordon gets elected, and now you have all of a sudden posted on the Newcastle County Police website, ban on shooting at moving vehicles, except when they're being used as a weapon. So in the instant case with Mr. Moses, oh no, when you look at the body camera footage, okay, he wasn't using the vehicle as a weapon, he was clearly trying to get away. 3 people wrote the article for the News Journal after looking at the video footage, and they said the first officer, the car had already gone past, and the second officer, it appeared as though that the vehicle was angling away from him. And there were 9 shots fired. As far as I'm concerned, there's no difference between the 9 shots fired in Riverside and the 9 minutes in Minnesota. And if what Terrence Jones is saying is correct, that the fatal shot, because they missed, but the fatal shot was in the side of the head, then the phone call I made after I saw the footage, which I only looked at it once, I'm not going to look at it again. I said, well, it's a good thing it's the police chief and the county exec, because if it was me, the officer would be fired right now.
Absolutely.
And so that's where we are with that. But the police chief and I, in public safety meeting, got into it on June 9th of last year. And his view was it was a response to George Floyd. No, it wasn't. It was a response to a 14-year-old who said, I was in a stolen car. They pulled up on us, we ran. They hit me with a taser, caught me. I said, okay, y'all got me. But the cop jumped on me and tased me in the face after I was down. That's when I went off. And not last year, 2 weeks ago, I get a call says, police stopped me. The young man says the police stopped him because he was riding too close in back of a truck. And they made him get out of the car, him and his friend, handcuffed him, searched the car, found nothing. Well, why? And since when you go and stop somebody, pull them out, search the car because they allegedly found a truck too close? This is the kind of foolishness that goes on all the time, which is why we ask for the investigation.
Yeah. I do hope and trust, because I heard you say that you asked for a federal investigation as opposed to an internal, or was it?
No, we asked for we sent, the NAACP, sent a letter to United States Attorney General Garland and said, based on these cases alone, Mr. Moses, Mr. Green, Mr. Turnbull, shot and killed by Newcastle County police officers, allegedly because the victims were trying to run over the officers. We want you to investigate this, and then we want you to investigate patterns and practices in Newcastle County. But we're not done.
Okay.
We're gonna come back with the city,
Right.
we're gonna come back with the state, and we're gonna look at, I didn't realize till the police chief sent that letter the other day, got 48 police departments in the state of Delaware. Why do you need 48 police departments? That's, if you got 1 million people, that's a police department for every 20,000 people. And they're all independent and doing just what they want to do.
And we're back. Brother Coby, I want to jump right into it. We had a very healthy conversation. What are some of the things that we need to do to start pulling this together? And where are you and what's going on with where you are?
Yeah, I think one, we have to continue to build a broad coalition from people from all backgrounds who really believe that it's time to change our policing here in Delaware. The Urban League, through Building People Power campaign, has started the Delaware Campaign for Fair Policing. If you're interested in getting involved with that, they have a Facebook page, they have an Instagram, and they have a Twitter that you can reach out to, or you could call the Urban League. And pretty much what we're doing is, one, mobilizing people to get in touch with their representatives and their senators to be able to communicate how you feel about policing and what you want to see. The two big pushes that we're dealing with is changing Leah Board before June 30th this year, amending
What is
Leah
Leah
Board.
Board?
Leah Board is the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights. It's the Bill of Rights that gives extra layer of protection to police officers that not other government workers don't get, and definitely not the community. It gives them the ability to be protected whenever they shoot an unarmed person here in Delaware, and we believe it's time to change that. And then also changing the use of force policy. It's very subjective. It needs to be objective. It has to be a standardized what warrants use of force here in Delaware. And right now the law, again, is what is used over the last 15 years. It's why no officer has been held accountable. So between those two things, if you think it's time to change the system here, please get involved with them. And we're working together. It started with the protests this past Sunday. We're bringing everyone in from the NAACP, Urban League, IMAC, ACLU. You have all these groups working together and moving step by step together. If you have an organization and you want to join, or you just want to join as an individual, join the coalition with us. It's going to take everyone's energy and ability to get this done.
So what you think? What you thinking?
Well, same thing I thought as it relates to education in Delaware. And what I've said when we filed the litigation about education funding, that the state of Delaware as a state has never done anything in the education system to benefit low-income children and children of color unless a judge or judges has compelled them to do so. In the instant matter with the police, I don't think it's any different. I don't think it's going that legislature which historically and traditionally has been run by the police department, is not going to change. And that's why we asked for a federal investigation, and that's why, unfortunately, I believe it's going to take federal litigation, because I believe in my heart that all those rights that they have violates the Equal Protection Clause. How can they have the ability, because of what somebody thinks, to use excessive and deadly force on me, and I don't have that? I'm not protected the way they're protected, and I think it's a constitutional violation. And I started to say, and you know, when I speak, I like to speak from my heart as opposed to having something written. And I forgot to say up there Sunday at Rodney Square, Caesar Rodney's gone, but the foundation's still there. Christopher Columbus is gone, but the foundation is still there. And the fact of the matter is, the practices, the patterns, and what they became famous for are still in existence in the state of Delaware and throughout this nation. And I also publicly, and I'm going to continue to do it, and I said it, Mr. President, do not run around this country and call for police reform if you're not going to take care of and address police reform in your own home state. And I have zero confidence that this police-run General Assembly will take any action on police reform. I think they'll do exactly what the police chief said last week. They'll agree to body-worn cameras, and that's it. But I hope that especially the Black Legislative Caucus will put in legislation and make the General Assembly vote it up or down, and at that point, we know who we need to work on, expose them.
Yeah.
Either you're with us or you're against us, and then we'll know who we need to start working on to define candidates to run against, because it's outrageous.
Yes.
And here in the state of Delaware right now, as we speak, if I, as a child in school, me and Coby get to fight, when they pull us in, the administrators have been trained to make us instantly write a statement about what happened. Now, you do that to children in the schools, but you can't do that to the adults who are police officers. It's fundamentally unfair, and it's just another indication of how broken the system is.
Right. You know, I don't want anyone to believe that we are against police. We're against wicked ways. He used the word is really bad a couple times, but I have another term. What is going on with the way policing is in America is simply egregious. It's egregious in that sometimes you can't even see, they cannot see the racism that is being done. One child shoot up a couple people, they give him a hamburger. Another child is running away and he dies. It is very evident. Had that 9-year-old child had not taken that video, the report was he had gotten sick and died. But that was not the truth. What was the name of that protection group or law?
LEOBORD, Law Enforcement Bill of Rights.
I believe, my father was a part of the police department, okay? And he too agreed with me that no one wants the bad apples. But it is institutional. And people are being safeguarded with this institution that is covering them to be able to do what they do. You made a comment, Councilman Street. You said we need to put stuff on the floor so we can find out who's for and against. Because all too often, we've been sold a chicken sandwich believing that it was really the supermarket. And at some point, I think we have to make sure we start holding people accountable, not coming in our community, getting our votes, and then leaving. You also made a comment. Listen, I supported Joe Biden. I'm not against him, but charity begins at home. And if we have all of these racist laws or these laws that are not protecting people of color, then let's be the model here. And I'm certainly in support of that 100%. And I've never been one who have hidden my opinion or my feelings as it relates to the things that we fight for. But what angers me is that I hear people saying that, it's really a black on black crime. They killing each other. On here, y'all arguing about that. But you have to understand what is going on and what is causing some of this violence to happen in a community. Dropping as many guns and drugs that is being dropped into our community certainly will give a group who is in despair some hope. And their hope is to gain the power, and then they start turning on each other, which is a part of the system as well. But what I want to do is we're going to do one more break, and then we're going to come back, and I want to talk about Brother Moses, and I want to see where we are, what are some of the things that what's the next steps, because this has been a very, very fruitful conversation as far as I'm concerned, and I knew that once I brought in Councilman Street that I would get straight talk, not that half stuff, although we're doing good, so y'all stay tuned, because thus far he has not used any vituperative words at all, and that's a blessing, and that means prayer changes things.
But in third grade, when they first put me out of school for using those kind of words, I said, it's just another vocabulary. Y'all talk the way you talk, I talk the way I talk.
Well, we're talking unknown tongues here, but not those tongues. but it's a joy having them with us, so we'll be right back. And we're back. We just having some conversation here. My friend, my brother, said that 20 years ago his Deer Park water would have been some gin. Aren't you glad we're in church, because he ain't got to worry about it being gin? But he's also said that would also created some other problems. It certainly would have. But honestly, when you're dealing with Brother Street, as well as now my new friend, Brother Owens, it is a joy and a privilege to see the passion. I look for that from Brother Street, but to see that the young brother, he's not an angry black man. He's very soft-spoken, have soft skills, but yet he's passionate about what he is doing and want to see done. And I think that this is our future, and this is going to be very much important. As we are now coming to the end of this time together, I really want to spend some time just talking about the Moses situation. That's how I discovered you, and I really want to know a little bit about that and where we are and what we need to do.
Yeah, so on January 13th, 2021, Newcastle County Police entered into Riverside, into the city, and murdered Lamont Moses. And I heard about the story later that day, of course, reading it in the newspaper, and then I saw some posts about it. So as I was reading the post versus what I was seeing in the papers, I said, let me reach out to the family, let me reach out. So I ended up going over there, and I talked with them for a little bit, and I believed them, their side of the story. I believe how they believed it went down. As the case progressed and they saw the footage of it, 100% it reiterated that he was murdered by Newcastle County Police. And kind of what happened there, it was a few things that was broken. So one, Newcastle County Police violated the jurisdictional agreement between the mutual aid agreement between the Newcastle County Police and the Wilmington Police. They were here so that, quote unquote, looking for stolen cars. But they entered outside, they entered the Wilmington jurisdiction and did not report why they were truly here. And when they approached them, they also violated Mr. Moses's, they violated their own policy in Mr. Moses's constitutional rights by not identifying themselves, by also, one of the officers used a baton to turn off the car, reached into his car, and they also opened the doors of the car.
Before you go any further, I need to come to you, because I'm not that smart. I didn't go to the University of Delaware. I went to a HBCU. Help me to understand, if they cross jurisdictional lines, if that is illegal, why is not nobody held accountable?
Well, they're playing hide and go seek. And 2 weeks ago, I asked for a copy of the jurisdictional agreement. And the response I got was that the chief said, other than the mutual aid agreement that is allowed by code, that's the only agreement there is. But, it's really not a good idea to play me for boo-boo the fool when I know good and well, okay, that Tom Gordon and Dennis Williams in 2014 set up there and established an agreement. So I'll get a copy of the agreement, but whatever it is, it's wrong. And I got a call that morning at 7 o'clock with somebody my age that talks like me, wanting to know why in the such and such, why the Newcastle County Police in Riverside in the middle of the night killing people. And my answer was, I don't know. And what I said Sunday is, I still don't know. And as I had said repeatedly publicly, I got all, as councilman, I've got all these unsolved murders and shootings in the county. They still don't know who killed the young man in Rose Hill Community Center. They don't know who shot and killed people last 4th of July in Rosegate. But they're in the city looking for stolen cars? I don't think so. And that's why the request for an investigation says, no, you need to look at where were these cars prior to coming in the city of Wilmington. Grab that body camera footage from there. Follow the GPS. And because there was some kind of mischief, I believe, going on that was inappropriate. And there was no call to the city of Wilmington. And that night, Riverside was filled with county police officers. City never showed up. And in last summer, I forget the exact date, but at 8:30 in the morning at 2nd and Rodney, there's a major county police presence. And the military vehicle and SWAT. Why? Well, they had a suspect that had allegedly been in the gun store out in the county and taken 30-some guns. Why y'all using military tactics at 8:30 in the morning when kids should be going to school? And this is right after the demonstration, not the one that you did, but the one that went south, and y'all come back in here with that kind of presence, not understanding that a military presence, a military methodology of approach only incites things. So now if the community got upset and started responding to the way we very often respond to a military tactical deployment, then we had some additional problems.
But not only that, not going back to last year, we could talk about this Monday on 35th Street. The tank was used in a raid in the city of Wilmington. I'll be honest, I lived over North Side my entire life, and over these last, I'll say 5 months, I've seen more Newcastle cops patrolling my neighborhood than I have ever seen Wilmington PD. Every day you're seeing the black SUVs stopping people on Market Street, stopping people over Riverside, just randomly stopping people. They've stopped me before because I ride in a van. I've always had a van since I was young, but I ride in a van that is used in a lot of criminal activity. So they just are stopping people who are driving in Chryslers. So again, look, it's the van I've always had. I've had it for years now. I've never committed a crime in my life, but because I drive in a van, they didn't even run my tags. They just pulled me over and stopped me. Newcastle County Police are operating within city boundaries right now, and there's no oversight over what's going on. We brought this up with the mayor, and he said that they're not. He knew nothing of it, and he was shocked to hear that. It's no way. This has been going on since the end of last year.
Do they have jurisdictional rights to just come into the city and do what they want to do?
Mutual aid gives them, and whatever was agreed to between the former mayor and the former county executive, which we've got to get, but basically they're doing just what the heck they want to do.
Yeah, this is sad because I hear you. And it's like we gotta do another show because this is not enough time.
Yeah.
I want you to give me some more because I got questions that, as you're talking, questions are just popping up because we need answers. So I'm gonna have to dedicate another show to just getting some of these questions answered as we move forward because this is serious. This police brutality, this mindset, this institutional racism in the police department is critical to our survival. and that's why I'm really becoming more and more passionate about it. But let me let you give some more information on Moses Street.
Yeah, no. So I can say this. In my viewpoint, I think what I just talked about with Newcastle County Police patrolling this area for months prior to the shooting of Mr. Moses, it shows a baseline and a timeline of them just coming into the city and doing whatever they want, which I think made them feel comfortable enough to commit this crime and murder Lamont Moses. At the end of the day, nothing we can do will ever bring him back. We'll never, pit him, allow him to hold his children again or hold his wife or hug his family. But what we can do in his honor is change these laws that are now protecting the same officers who murdered him. It is very clear if you watch the body cam footage. The car is going away from the officers. They shot into a moving car. But prior to that, they broke numerous laws themselves. Again, violating his constitutional right, opening the door of the car without his consent. This is just things that they feel as though they're so comfortable with getting away with that they don't even care about. Right? We're supposed to have this Constitution to protect us, but yet again, it was created when we were only viewed as 3/5 of a person. So therefore, it's still not protecting minorities, and these laws have to be changed. And again, we can start right here in Delaware, and that starts with amending Leah Board and also amending and changing the use of force policy here in Delaware.
Do you promise to really spend some time making sure that you educate this community on Leah Board? Because that's, until you said it, I didn't know what the policy was, what that was. But that's the key. We have to figure out where our target is, expose people who are hiding behind and allowing things to happen, but yet acting like they're part of the fight or part of the quest of humanity's equal rights. But I'm going to need to know that you're going to stick with this.
Oh, 100%. Like I said at the beginning, reading and education is the key to success and the key to opening up new avenues of change. And one, Leah Board, again, even myself, I'm still learning about Leah Board. I'm not going to say I'm an expert on it. I say I'm a sponge because I'm absorbing all the things. I try to take in as much knowledge about it as possible. But Leah Board is very... it's a law that's there that people don't know about, and they see it on TV every day. They see it on social media, what's happening, and they're saying, how can we change that? And a lot of people don't know that it's Leah Board that is protecting us from actually getting change and holding them accountable. A lot of people say, look, if I committed a crime on the street, I'm locked up in jail awaiting trial.
Right.
Why isn't this happening to the officers? And it's because of bills like Leah Board, that is law enforcement bill of rights, that is withholding that true accountability from happening.
Yeah, and one of the things that's going on with the Republican Party now on a national level is that's one of their sticking points. That no, we should not allow them to be sued, cops, when they violate people's rights. But yet, if I'm a pastor, I have to have insurance because if I counsel you and you go kill yourself, you're going to sue me. So I have to have insurance, and I don't have that protection. I have to sit in prayer, and I have to go to school and learn so that I can practice, so I won't malpractice. So I think what I would like to do, Brother Street, as well as Brother Owens, is I want to see if I can get a commitment where maybe even if it's next week, we come back, and I want to talk about the Leah Board. I want to give me some points, and let's air them out, and how do we? Because from you're the fighter. Well, you're the fighter too now. You're just the quiet fighter. You're the one who sucker punch while he's arguing. But how do we learn what the rules are and what laws that are on the book it's time to get rid of?
Well, but let's go one step further. Darn near every day, there's a shooting and a killing in the city of Wilmington. Now, all these cops that can do all these things, they haven't done anything to stop the shootings, and worse than that, there have been very few arrests. And then they cry, oh, the street won't talk to us. Well, why would the street talk to you when you, as the FOP, double down on we support Trump? Okay, you Trump. If then when at Newcastle County, when Councilman Owens and I questioned it, challenged it, and the police chief said, well, other officers didn't look at it that way. They doubled down and said the overwhelming majority of Newcastle County police officers voted to support Trump. Don't you know the message that you just sent?
Yeah.
And don't you think it a little bit ludicrous to think that the street is going to talk to you? And then when you look at Philadelphia and the elected officials there call for $100 million in prevention programs, they're saying that these young folks who are doing this shooting, when you got a second gun charge, make the bail $1 million. Nobody's saying anything here. And as I said yesterday at Newcastle County Council meeting, why is it that when you got a week of continued murders and shootings, the only public officials that have said anything publicly are Councilwoman Oliver and myself? And there's nothing coming from any other leaders in the city itself saying this can't be business as usual, this isn't acceptable. And then, tie all this together, Golf Tainer taking over the port is supposed to be the cure-all to end-all. We're going to create 5,000 jobs and all these wonderful things, and people who have been inclined to be involved in criminal activities, they'll be able to get jobs. And so far, I've been informed about people getting fired. I've been informed about salaries being cut, and it's crystal clear that they're union busting. So, and now they're fined $500,000 by DNREC. There's something wrong with this whole picture, and it's got to be a holistic approach to fix it. And what I was saying when I had black hair, the derivatives of heroin and cocaine don't grow here. Right. Guns are not manufactured here. And the last time I was in the gun store, because I'm gonna tell you the truth, I brought a little gun. My brother, God rest him, had suggested it, and I'm trying to figure out how to work, and almost shot myself. So no, this is jinx. So I want to take it back. I don't want this. I almost shot myself. So I took it back, because I just wanted it out of my house. While I'm standing there returning my gun for less than what I paid for it, because been one shot fired out of, I look over, here's a young man. He got a whole grocery bag full of guns. How you gonna buy a whole grocery bag full of guns? I'm like, I don't belong here, period. Let me get up out of here. And then finally from mine, I just want to bring it home. You know, my grandfather was a farmer. So when we went down the country for birthdays, whatever celebrations, he was always at the door saying goodbye to everybody, and that old Southern tradition of doing what folks do when they're departing. And my kids, and when they come by with the grandkids and all that, I do the same thing. Only I'm looking to make sure ain't no brake lights up. I'm making sure that everybody's car is tagged. And I've got sets of light bulbs in the house for all their vehicles. So that if I look and see that there's a light bulb out, come back here, let me take care of this. And then it was somebody's birthday, and my 6-year-old grandson sitting there at the table next to me, and my son says to him, LJ, what do you do when the cops stop you? It's yes, sir, no, sir, and I want my dad. And I'm like, come on, man, really? At 6, he said, Pop, it starts now. And I'm
agree
like,
with that.
I was so, and I got up and walked out, because I'm like, other people don't have to live like this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You don't have to tell y'all 6-year-olds how you deal with the police. Y'all don't have to do that. You don't have to stand at the door and look at family vehicles and make sure there's no reason for them to be stopped by the police. And it's a different world that we need to change. And you, my brother,
But that conversation.
you're the future.